All right. Next agenda item is delegations. Delegations, anybody would like to speak about anything that's currently on our agenda for tonight? Delegations, anybody want to talk? No? Hearing none, we will move on to approval of meeting minutes, number 4. Has everybody reviewed the December 12th, 2018 meeting minutes? This is the one that I think fell through the cracks somewhere or another.
Thank you. December.
Comments on December 12th? Since you have the
Yes.
sticky note.
Yes, I do. I have a suggested amendment. Let's see, page 3, top third of the page. When Mr. Cargill was discussing, Ms. Santoro asked about the iron and manganese. I thought I did specifically ask whether the proposed utility upgrades were necessary to the project. And that's important because Bill then segued into the general topic of wants and needs, but there were 2 separate items going on with the project. So, yes, I have a little something you can ask. And then the second suggestion that I had was just to reference, I think it's Ms. Mazzalupo, who was the intern. She was in the executive session with us, and she was Jeff's intern, and so her name appears in the context of the minutes, but it just doesn't appear also in attendance. It's not that important, but since we're making the other change, I just didn't remember who she was, but she did join us in executive session.
So are you suggesting that we just break this into 2 separate paragraphs?
No, same paragraph, because we're on the same topic. It's just that specifically you and I were concerned about whether the proposed utility upgrades were necessary to the project, as opposed to being somehow ancillary or not necessary.
Well, I'm a little unclear on what we're changing, because I can't vote on it unless I understand it.
Okay.
So you're saying on which paragraph are you?
Okay, so let's go 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs down. So I just generally asked about iron and manganese, but the crux of what I was asking had more to do with the fact that in addition to we'll say having the water go from well 1A to well 6, that was the guts of the project. Mm-hmm. There was also proposed utility upgrades, and that was Bill and I were thinking that the question was, were these really necessary at this time? So I just thought we could simply add, and I recall asking it specifically.
Well, and what was the answer?
And the answer, I guess it's sort of summarized by Mr.
Cargill said there are some deduct items that are part of the bid package.
Yeah, that's about as.
So what does that mean?
Bill, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I did get the sense that that the additional work was necessary. It wasn't really, totally an addendum.
That's not what I would infer from that. Your question's a good one. Are they important? But I don't see it answered, and I wonder if we're making a deduction that's incorrect. Not to belabor the point,
right.
But you brought it up.
Right, and we could, a check of the tape, of the recording if it's still existing.
Because it's important, right? If it's necessary and poses a health risk, then it certainly gives us more leverage to support it. If it's not,
No health risk.
Sure.
What's that?
No health risk.
There weren't
No,
any
there was.
yeah.
He said that there were no state mandated levels, and that it's a watch item. It's not a risk item. But there was also conversations from town members that said, I got a brother, sister, cousin, somebody that had an effect of it, and it is something that we should minimize to the extent practical. I don't remember specifically the words that were used here.
Mm.
So if we could go to, it should be on YouTube, right? This whole conversation's out there.
Mm-hmm.
If we want to go through and look at this paragraph and see what the actual, I don't remember word for word. This is mid-December.
Right.
Right.
So we can table, we can not approve these minutes. If you want to go back and review the tape, if you want to review the tape, if we all want to review the tape, if we think it's germane, then there's no reason why we can't do that.
Personally, I didn't really want to belabor it. I just
Yeah.
was unclear.
But
I
Like
mean,
I said, since you brought it up, I'm
Yeah,
looking at, all
I
right,
mean,
well,
I don't want to either. I think I was satisfied that evening that wasn't some detour being taken and some,
Yes.
unnecessary or superfluous, project happening there. And that the utility upgrades were more integral than not to the main project. And a good opportunity to do them as
Right.
well.
so Mark just said they were not a health issue.
Correct, yeah.
It's
I
a
never
human
got-
health issue. It does take out the pipes in one's home, and it also is a quality issue. People
Yeah.
don't like drinking brown water.
Yes.
Yeah.
But he did specifically say
Yeah,
there
so-
are no state or federal mandates that we,
Human
As a
health issue.
separate
it's
issue.
just
Okay.
the,
Correct.
yes.
All right, so you're going to give some language like that to Karen. I do want to
Yeah.
understand what you were going to give her.
Right,
'cause
okay,
all right,
yeah.
all right,
That's-
got it.
that's good enough.
So I move to approve those meeting minutes
Oh, we
as
haven't made the
amended.
They haven't been amended, though.
Well, she's going to give her language, and we understand what the essence of it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's just simply the phrase of being more specific, instead of needs and wants, just being more specific as to what our question was with respect to the utility upgrades, that's all. That
Okay.
those were the subject of this paragraph.
Understand, I just have a hard time approving a future amendment. And that's what we're saying, is that you're gonna review the tape, we're gonna review the tape.
Okay.
We're
we
gonna
can do it
change
that
the
way.
words.
That's fine.
If we don't know what we're changing them to, then we can't approve what you're changing. If you're okay with the way it is now, we're okay with the way it is now. If you want to amend it, then we'll have to table it.
Okay, so, I will look at the meeting, tape.
Okay. So, let me make this a little bit clearer. If there's a motion to approve the minutes as amended, then you can make that motion. I personally would not, but if you all want to say we accept the fact that Anna's going to go back and make the changes, that's fine. Anne's going to make the changes, sorry. Keep putting that A on the end of your name.
That's okay.
I'm not the first one, I know.
No, that's fine.
Okay, so do I have a motion, or are we gonna move forward? No motion? Okay, so we're gonna table the meeting minutes for December 12th until the amendment's made. Regular meeting of February 13th, 2019, meeting minutes. Have we reviewed those? Do we have comments? Do we have sticky notes?
I have no sticky notes
Okay.
there, Bill.
Any comments from anybody on the February 13th? Lisa was absent, Camille was absent. No comments? Then do I have a motion to approve the February 13th, 2019 meeting minutes?
Move to approval of the minutes of regular meeting February
I have a
13th, 2019.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further comments about the February 13th meeting minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Abstain?
Aye.
Opposed? So moves 4-1-0. Okay, reports. Board of Ed. Sir.
Evening, everybody. Our Board of Ed member couldn't make it this evening, so I'm covering and filling in. Lisa, welcome back. Good to see you. Just a couple quick items. The first one being, last week we were trying to organize a morning. We invited Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen, and Board of Ed members to come join us for just a walkthrough of some of our classrooms. I know that it's a busy time of year and nobody could make it, but we're going to try and reschedule that. And I was looking, maybe we can push out to get some thoughts from individuals, if maybe an hour instead of 3 hours, or an afternoon might work. Would really love to see if we can get some town officials. You know, our staff were very excited about that as a possible opportunity, just to walk through and see, technology in classrooms and everything that goes on. It's a much different world than it was years ago, and we wanted to offer that opportunity. So I'll be reaching back out at some point, and maybe we can schedule something to get maybe 1 or 2 members from each board to join us for.
So are you looking for
that.
suggestions now?
I would love it if you've got some ideas or thoughts. Yeah, that'd be great.
For me and for some of us that still work.
I know, that's the problem.
That's the problem, right?
Yes.
So for me to attend, it would have to be later in the afternoon or a weekend.
Okay. All right.
Daytime's just,
Yeah, I know.
It's hard for me to
It's
be
that
here
window
during-
of when
it's-
school's in session and
Yes.
people are working, so.
yes.
But we'll see what we can do, and we'll keep at it. Just two other quick ones. Obviously, quick update on the school projects. Things are progressing. We are still on target, on schedule, on budget. We have our biggest phase coming up in the next 3 to 4 weeks. It will start in 2 weeks, actually, with Flanders School. It's phase 3 that we're moving into. We'll have 21 rooms moving in Flanders School to start. Then it'll kick over to Haynes, and then it'll go to Nyack Center. We have to stagger it because we have so much technology moves that occur, and we only have a small crew that can do that. We have to move servers from one location to the next, so it's time consuming. It's a huge undertaking. So this will be our biggest one, but we've got 2 under our belts so far, and we're moving along. Gyms will be cleared out, as well as libraries. So there's a lot happening in this next phase 3, with the spring coming around. And last piece, we just talked with a subcommittee of our board about technology, and you're going to hear it from me on Monday night as one of our needs. We are working diligently as it pertains to trying to continue to fund and keep up with the technology changes that are happening in the classrooms. Our backbone, our infrastructure is still struggling a bit. We've been working with in-house heavily on trying to get our technology up to snuff and catch up to where other districts are. So many other districts have one-to-one devices and all access points work. We don't have that yet. We're working on it feverishly, but it's going to be part of our some of our requests for next week. So that's about it. Again, our life has been the projects. We're still redistricting is still ready to go next year. We have had some parents that we're still working with. I don't know if they come to you as town officials, but I still hear from some, and they talk to some of our Board of Ed members. But we're still working closely with them and trying to provide opportunities for kids that are going to be moving to a new school next year to partake in activities at that new school. So one of the pieces is, we've got night activities going on, but it'd be great to get some kids over during the day to spend time with peers that they're going to see next year. So that's something we're looking at. We're working with our PTA presidents as well. So we got a meeting coming up there. So that's about it. I don't want to take up too much of your time. Any questions for me at all?
Any questions from the board?
No.
Okay.
No, sir.
Thank you. Look forward to seeing you all Monday night.
Thank you.
All right.
I bet you do.
Mr. First Selectman.
Yes, sir. Last note there. Good evening. I'll keep my comments short. It's just you have a meaty agenda this evening. This is that time of year we moving money around to cover as we have tight budgets, and when some budgets are running low, we're moving money from other places. We're also moving money from the contingency funds as we've set up those for that purpose. I will mention that Costco has broken ground aggressively. They're back there moving lots of dirt around. That's what I call it. But they're preparing the land, and the project is 100% on board right now. The Honeywell building, obviously, since we've last met, we had a referendum that passed, and we're in the process of doing our due diligence. The title search was completed Friday. Our lawyer said it was the cleanest title search they've ever seen. Phase 1 came back clean for the engineering, and then we had our town engineer and our building inspector go through the building today to determine what kind of tests might be needed to fully do our due diligence so we can proceed with the closing paperwork and the closing of that purchase. The Vision Committee has been put together, 3 members of your commission, 3 members of selectmen, 3 members of police commission, the chief of police, and 2 members at large attended a meeting just last evening and started developing their charge, their purpose of developing a scope of work and working with an architect. As those were there last night heard, we have an RFQ, a request for qualifications that we distributed to appropriate parties, and we had about 6 to 8 of them come to tour the facility today. So there's a lot of interest in this project, and like I say, about 6 or 8, I didn't see the final count, came and toured the building and making notes, and that'll be part of their package. On a real positive note, all this is positive, of course. The Miracle League just received $25,000 gift from the Chamber of Commerce, which was so appropriate because they represent much of New London County. This is a more of a regional facility than it is a town facility. It's not even a town facility, but it will be located in our town. And I'm really happy to see that the Chamber of Commerce got behind this. It will create tourism in our area, not just in our town, as people come in with their children to participate in weekend activities and such, and eat in local restaurants and shop on our main street and tour the boardwalk. That's a good thing. The Miracle League will also be sponsored through the Rotary Club's Gala, which will happen on April 13th. It's going to be over Water's Edge, I think. They're going to go the other way this time. And I encourage you all to go. It's $100 a ticket. A special deal, $200 for couples, and it's a good time. And the Rotary Club, like the Lions, do so much in our community, and I think especially as responsible elected officials, it's great to go out and support them when you can. So that's April 13th, and tickets are available in my office and from other Rotarians around town. The O-Niantic is Saturday. That's another thing you should all sponsor. Get on your green leggings and meet me out on Hope Street at 9:30 on Saturday. This is a 5K road race happening. That's always a fun time. Lots of spirit out there for that. Many other things are starting to creep up on the calendar now that we had a sunny day, and spring is in the air, and more people are on the boardwalk, and we'll see that this town will come back and be alive once again as the warmer weather approaches. That's my report.
For now that I dare say that winter's kind of behind us, did we do as much snow plowing as we thought we were going to do? Are we doing okay with a budget for winter
Joe
storms?
will be up here, so if you want to, he's
it's
down
not
just
his-
doing work right now, waiting for a text from me when his part comes up. I think we're a little light so far. Everybody knock. It's not over. But the timing of the storms, I think every one of them was awful. Like they started Sunday at 2 in the morning, which is time and a half, and then they come in, then they got to work the day, and then they got to, do the double trash pickup and all that. So, with the exception of one storm, which was kind of during the day, started at 8, ended at 4. All the other storms were difficult in the timing of it, but yeah, we might be a little light on that. Might be good.
Well, if you look at the budget, it's just under 25,000 that we have left, so it's 64% expended. So it just, so it looks like we might squeak by.
Cool.
Okay.
On the Miracle League,
Yeah.
I'm shifting my paradigm a little bit. It isn't just an East Lyme thing.
It's not.
It's a regional thing as part of
Sure
the
it
state,
is.
right?
Yeah. Well, it's a regional thing. It's a
Are we
we'll
getting
attract regionally.
Yeah, are we getting funding from the region?
No, not from.
Are we appealing? Well, I mean, if it's going to be a regional thing and kids from other areas are
Well-
going to come here and enjoy it, are we asking for support?
Yes.
We are
It
asking,
probably
and
should.
everyone said no? Is that what I'm...
No, I think we're not asking towns necessarily, not town governments, nor has East Lyme specifically. We don't have a line item in our budget for it, although we will maintain the property as we are hosting it. But there's many organizations that are giving money throughout the regional community.
Okay, that's
yes.
what I'm getting at. Throughout the,
Yes.
the region. So maybe other Rotaries or...
Yes.
So we are
Yeah,
getting funding
yeah.
from other
And
organizations
you're
outside
right.
of East Lyme.
Yeah, Charter Oak Bank, other banks as well, Dominion.
Well,
So
they always give, but I mean...
right. So there are many organizations. But the host town typically takes it on, and that's why we've seen so many different little. There's a prom dress thing happening. They have 400 dresses.
Will you be wearing one?
There's no. Maybe I should as a promotion.
I think you should think that.
For the Miracle League, I'd do just about anything, and they have 400
Someone that
dresses.
could do your hair.
400 dresses, Lisa. That for $25 you can get a dress. So if we can get rid of 75% of them, plus there's vendors there, florists and makeup people that I will not. But a lot of good spirit, and I think it's brought the town and community together. And yes, other communities have participated as well. Myself and Dave Putnam made a pitch at the local council of government meeting
that's
last
right.
year,
Okay.
and other CEOs were part of that, and talking it up. Sometimes word of mouth is what you're looking for in an event like that.
Any other questions?
No.
Thank you. Director of Finance. How are we doing for snow removal?
Well, if you look at the monthly budget summary, you'll notice under expenditures that in the month of February, we did spend $22,187 on storm overtime and $40,144 on storm supplies. So we've been spending it. Also, you'll note we paid out the facility rent to Waterford last month, and we had some additional debt payments that month. And for our taxes, through the 1st of February, people can pay their taxes and not be considered late. So we had, there's some substantial tax collections in the month of February. And then we did receive the grant that we receive for the emergency management director wage reimbursement that we get. So those all came in the month of February. In your green folders tonight, I put a fund balance report, kind of like starting with the beginning fund balance and projected revenues, projected expenditures. And so, we're starting at 5.2 million, and at this point, projecting fund balance to be a little over 5.8 million by the end of the year. So for revenues, I did attach another revenue account update. So what it is it shows revenues through February, and then there's a column that says 3/1/19, and what that indicates is projected revenues beginning March 1st through the end of June. And I kind of do that by looking at what happened in the prior year and using that as a baseline. Of course, with the state revenues, we know what those numbers are, so I use those accordingly. You'll see, I'll just point out, building permits will be 190 over what we originally projected, but we all know that's because we received, Costco permits went out. We'll showing that we'll be over about 78,000 with conveyance tax receipts, and the other area is with our out-of-district tuitions, projecting 140,000 more than we originally projected in that area. So with that said, at the end of the year, at this point, we're showing just about $44,000 higher than we originally projected. And in addition, at this point, I'm showing that we wouldn't need to use the fund balance that we applied to balance this year's budget. So that's why you see the plus of 675, and then the minus of 175 when you get into the proposed 1920 budget. The recommendation is to decrease the amount of fund balance that we apply to the subsequent year's budget, because we've previously had discussions about working on a plan to get it to a higher increase, and especially considering the fact that we're in a period of time where we're taking on more debt than we have been in the past, primarily due, to the school projects that we have going on right now. So when we talked about the public safety building, we had put together a 10-year budget project out, and that included a plan for us to grow fund balance. So in year one, the recommendation was that we would decrease use of fund balance in the 1920 budget, if you went back and looked at that. So anyway, so this is just something, it had been requested at a prior meeting, and so this is kind of what I'll show the board, and I can update it every month, because now that I have it formatted, and I do every month look at where we are with our revenues and project out where I think we're gonna be at the end of the year. As with regards to expenditures, I'm projecting at the end of the year, we'll have $100,000 remaining in our budget. And, as the years have gone on and we've made leaner budgets, we're spending down more of our budget by the end of the year. Last year, we had more left over. However, that was due to the fact that we put all the budget freezes on to make up for where we had over-projected on our state revenues, because we were so uncertain as to what they would be in last year's budget. So anyways, this is just another tool for us to use, and where we are and where we may go.
So if I hear what you just said, you project that we're gonna spend about 100,000 less than we planned, and that our revenue was about 44,000 more than planned?
Correct. At this point in time, yes.
Okay, that's both good numbers.
So, help me out a little bit on that. So this looks nice. Well, if I don't look at this, just like a qualitative discussion, so aren't we concerned about, well, maybe my numbers are up here, or my years are up. Aren't we concerned about a reduction in state revenue coming up? And, I don't know, this just looks way better than I'm thinking it should. But I want you to tell me
Well,
where
this
I'm
is
falling.
this
That's
fiscal year, yes,
Yeah,
that's
that's where I'm
correct.
falling off the bus.
Yeah, okay.
That's
yeah.
right, it's
It's not
this year.
talking about going forward. This is just talking about, keeping what our fund balance is on your
Mhm.
radar. And so
I just worry that sounds so good that we're gonna lose sight of the tremendous challenges we have coming up this next fiscal year.
well, this is
Not gonna
one
happen.
this is one item we're talking about. We're not talking about the state revenues. We're just talking about what our fund balance is.
Right, but we do have, right, this is just revenue for this year, okay, all right. I think I'm just so scared that I wanna make sure I'm not feeling too overconfident. And I didn't consider that this is this fiscal year. My mistake.
No, I'm fairly confident we are not gonna lose sight in the next couple of months of the challenges that we have in front
Well,
of us.
I mean, I'm just like, yeah,
But I think
Okay.
this does show that the town was very well managed this year. If we spent 100,000 less than we expected and we brought in 45,000 more than expected, it means that we're keeping our eyes on the right things, in my humble opinion.
all right.
Any other questions for our Director of Finance?
And so, and then the other thing,
Oh.
our, sorry. Oh, it was, I'm sorry. Okay. Just talk about our health insurance.
Yeah, let's do that.
So, December and January were the months that really
Where's
helped.
that? I'm sorry.
It was included in your
I'm
packet.
sure it is. I just was in the green folder for a minute, and it's the last sheet? I know, I looked at it
It's
at home.
towards the end of the packet,
Okay. I'm hoping I
before the
didn't leave it.
bylaws, I think.
Right. Okay, don't let me stop the show. I can't.
Yeah, so anyway, so December and January really, really helped us out. February was, not as good as,
Thank you.
You got it.
December and January. In February, our claims were actually $30,270 more than they were in February of 2018. However, we did not exceed that 28.56% increase that I was projecting for the remainder of the year. So it didn't make us any worse, but it didn't help us as much as the prior 2 months. And in March, since the reports that you have before you were created, we had a $1,000 day on the 8th of the month, and then on the 11th, we had an additional $35,000. So our claims month to date are now at $271,950. So we kind of started out good, but then we had that one bad day. So, as I said, we haven't made any real improvements. We're just kind of like where we were, at the end of December. So, anyway, I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Do you have concerns you want to bring to our attention?
Other than the health insurance, items where accounts are in trouble are on the agenda this evening. There are a couple of other places I expect we might come back for transfers from contingency. One of the debt service accounts, we had $2,000 less in our budget than we needed to make the payment, so that'll need to come from contingency. And then the other account, there was a longevity payment that was due to the tax collector, and we didn't budget for it. So we'll need to come back for funds for that, because the tax budget is not a budget where there's really any excess funding in. It's a very small budget. It's a very tight budget. So pretty much that's about it.
Okay. Any other questions for our Director of Finance? Hearing none, we will move on to new business. First item, new business, special appropriation for transfer of funds, IWA Recording Secretary, $800.
Nope.
So, I think I told him he didn't have to come. Because it's kind of a simple request. We had a couple major, we had a major in the Wetlands Agency application that took up several evenings, and I think they came back twice to the well. I think Green Valley Lakes, you may have read about it. In addition, we lost our regular secretary, and we had to use some town personnel, namely Jen Linda, who works in the zoning and wetlands office downstairs, came back at night and did this, but when she goes over her 40 hours, she picks up overtime. We burned through a little bit of that budget, and we need $800 to continue having wetland meetings, which is, of course, something we need to do for the remaining part of the year. We have since hired an additional recording secretary from a neighboring town to alleviate the overtime problem, but also we don't anticipate any substantial applications coming before the inland wetlands. So we run a pretty tight budget line on that, and this year, because of the big application, of course there were application fees involved, so the town did receive additional revenues because of those applications. We'd like to go back and transfer $800 from contingency. Little potatoes.
I think we're going to approve that one.
As you know, suffering here. So that's that, and you're going to see the same thing with the recording secretary, which is your next for planning, which is the next on your agenda. But I'll address that afterwards, because they also had the same application come around twice, and it was substantial in length and hours.
I had a question. The inland wetlands part-time clerical recording secretary account shows at the moment $158 in the red. So does this $800, will it be covering that?
It'll be
presumably?
covering that, and then the remaining part of the year.
Okay. So does the 2,000 usually cover the expense? Is that typically what is?
In a typical year, it does.
Okay.
But they had, like I said, a substantial. It went on for months, and then it came back. They came back to the well again after a denial, or I guess it was approved, but with conditions. So they came back again and had to go through the whole process again. Land use being, you have to build the record all over again.
Yeah. No, that was
Yeah.
huge case or matter.
Any other questions about new business agenda item A? Hearing none, do I hear a motion?
Move to appropriate and transfer $800 from account 01-01-120-200-500 contingency to account 01-01-132-100-412 Inland Wetlands Agency, Pete, part-time clerical.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion, and I think John was first, the second.
Yeah.
Do I have any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. So moved, 500. Next item, item B. Appropriation for planning recording secretary.
So the same situation occurs. I don't want to take up too much of your time. We have also, again, I want to reiterate, we solved the problem of the overtime situation by going out and finding another recording secretary willing to come in to do this. It's not an easy task. It's finding someone who will sit here and do this and then write up your minutes, and also skilled at it. I mean, we could probably, it's a tough job market out there for employers, but not only that, you also need someone who can get it done right, because as you know how intricate some of these, especially in land use, when we're dealing with a very litigious situation, getting someone to get the minutes right. We found a gem. We're happy about that. So this will solve that problem. Going
Okay,
forward.
any other questions about the motion or the action in front of us?
No.
Hearing none, entertain a motion.
Move to appropriate and transfer $800 from account 01-01-120-200-500 contingency to account 01-117-100-412 planning recording secretary.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any more conversations about the motion before us? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So moved, 500. Thank you. Special appropriation, item C, to transfer funds, NFD, overtime, $9,205.
I'll introduce to you the chief of the Niantic Fire Department. I don't know if you've met him before, John Dwyer. He's now not an acting chief, but he was elected by by the volunteer group over there as now the chief of the Niantic Fire Department. As you know, he inherited this budget. This is a budget that has given us a little trouble, this and the other fire department, as far as trying to find where that right number is, in overtime especially, and we have cut out over the last couple of years money from the budget and had to go and replace it in the contingency. And we're asking for that again, as John tries to get his hands and head wrapped around the budget. So John, if you want to fill in the blanks and introduce yourself.
Hi, John Dwyer, Fire Chief, Niantic Fire Department. Nice to be here. Thank you. I work with Ann Johnson, Anna, and looking at the numbers going ahead when I took over back December, January, it was pretty evident to me that we weren't going to make it to the finish line with what the previous chief